What if Regina is coming tonight? I don't know. I haven't. Okay. The time is 5:30 p.m. The date is Monday, January 30th, 2023, and I'd like to call this work session to order. Up first, we have city updates. Ms. Solano, you're zooming in today. You have beautiful background. Take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, City Council, and Mayor Gradisar. Thank you for allowing me to join you by Zoom tonight. I do have a few city updates, and the first is the COVID update. The 1 week cumulative positivity case counts is down to 37.2, and the 1 week positivity rate is 3.3%, with 9 days of stabilized or declining patient count at COVID patients at Parkview Hospital. I have an update about the City Council work retreat. I forwarded to all councilors earlier today the draft agenda sent to me by the chair. And I wanted to give you an update that first presentation from the Urban Renewal, I talked with Cherish today and she has confirmed she was meeting with Jerry and she'll be back to me tomorrow with respect to the amount of time that's been allocated and total confirmation of attendance that morning. I have not yet heard from CML Director, Mr. Balmer. We are exchanging voice messages. I'll have a further update electronically. With respect to the ARPA updates at Councillor Maestry's request last week, we did reach out to Crossroads. Mr. Davis will be coming in, I believe, or we have a phone call this Thursday, when we will work to schedule the presentation that she requested from the Crossroads ARPA application soon. I've also reached out to Jude Solano at your request, Council. She's aware of the request to return for a second presentation and also to be able to answer any questions that Council does have of the ARPA request from Southern Colorado Harm Reduction. And the last update on ARPA this evening is United Way should be in attendance this evening, and they, I think, are up next on the agenda. I wanted to share with you also the warming shelter numbers in these last few cold nights. The warming shelter currently, the mayor has a current declaration of emergency weather through Friday night, February 3rd. But last week on the Tuesday and Wednesday night evenings, there were 48 in attendance in the shelter at each night. And according to Lonnie, that was about capacity. The night before last and last night, there were 42 and 40 respectively. And he was in the office earlier today for the compliance paperwork to turn into our ARPA accountant. And the last update that I have, I thought it would be interesting to share that this is the last week that the census tract small business ARPA grants are available to the small businesses. Out of 171 letters that were distributed, we have received positive acceptance of those grants in the amount of 60 different businesses. And that does conclude the city updates for this evening. Do you have any questions or directions for me for next week? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solano, for those updates. What questions are there from council? Councilor Graham.
I just wanted to know if we were going to be getting another lobbyist for the city council. Ms. Solano, if we could look at putting an RFP out for that.
I don't see the mayor and the city attorney on my screen, but I'm sure they're both looking to say for them to comment.
At this point, we don't have any plans to get another lobbyist at the state level.
Okay.
Pardon me?
The gal that we had because she quit, apparently.
Yeah.
Retired. And so
Last fall. Yeah. And she was doing a little bit of work at the state, but mostly was helping with the federal delegation and the federal agencies in Denver. And so she wasn't doing a lot at the State House. I think at the State House, we have a good enough relationship with our local legislators that we should be taken care of. So we don't have any plans to hire a lobbyist at this point.
I think we still should hire one. I know there's some stuff coming down that the council might want to give direction to. And it's in our budget, so I don't see why we wouldn't be able to have one if we've had one for all these years.
Yeah, if we just depend on our state legislators, then at that point, we're looking at a partisan viewpoint. So it would sure be nice to have a more nonpartisan viewpoint, and the lobbyist usually can work in that manner. So it'd be nice to have a report from a lobbyist. There's a lot of things that are on the legislative schedule that may not, we don't want to get stuck with like Senate Bill 217 and 271 without council knowing about that coming down the pike, so that we could also have some input or have a call to action to our community so that they could contact their legislators and let them know that they don't want things or.
I know there's been some discussion about CML, Colorado Municipal League, that tracks legislation that's of interest to municipalities around Colorado. They're having a legislative workshop that I would encourage all. Councilor Atencio is a member of the board at CML. So with respect to those kind of issues, I think that CML does a great job of tracking the issues that are important to municipalities.
It would still benefit council to have a lobbyist, especially if it's in our budget, to report directly to us and give us an update. We can't all
I
attend.
don't recall that being in the budget, but how much would you like to spend on lobbyists?
Well, you,
It was in our budget. I think we were paying $1,000 a month,
I think we're paying 1,500.
1,500, but it's in the council's budget.
It's in the council's budget.
It is.
I doubt if we could get a good lobbyist for $1,500 a month, but if you want to put out an RFP, we certainly can do that.
Councilor Atencio and then Councilor Winter.
Yeah, as far as lobbyists at the national level, we had a really good one, if you remember, Ray Kosick. But that was a time when they were doing earmarks, and it was really important to have somebody there pushing as much as they possibly could for us at this point. When they did away with earmarks,
Well, and our former
I don't want to say
lobbyist
that it
was
was-
Ray's partner, Christine Abacat.
yeah, Christine was.
So she's the one that had represented us,
Yeah.
as I say, at the federal level with the federal agencies for a long time.
But we should probably just think about it instead of just going with it, because if we have paying somebody in Washington right now is, I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about state level. There's a lot of activity at state level, and not everyone was able to attend the CML conferences.
Councilor Winter.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with the mayor on this one. But I do have a question for Laura. Is that okay? Laura, I heard on the news this evening that we have COVID in high amounts in the wastewater. Have you heard anything about that? So they think it's underreported.
We get reports from our wastewater director, counselor, I believe twice a week. And the last report, I think goes out to counselors as well, but it was decreased. It had not gone to an increased position, but I can ask for the updated report. I'm not sure that Andra's in the room this evening. I'll send her an email message and she'll have the latest report out to us immediately.
Okay, I just heard that. I think it was on the 5 o'clock news. So I just thought you might know something about it. Thanks.
Councilor Flores.
I'm wondering if we could move or add, discussion about a lobbyist at our retreat. We're only talking 30 days. And because I hadn't thought about that in depth, I'd like to consider it and think about it. But
Yeah, we paid somebody up until almost November of last year and we never had an update, and she's always been the lobbyist for the council previously. So, I mean, if we're now saying that there was no reason for it, I don't know why we've been paying somebody all these years.
Correct.
It would just be nice to have somebody
can tell you why.
come forward and explain to us, I guess. And if we need to talk about it at the retreat, that's fine. It's come up a couple times this week in discussion. And so I just wanted to see where we're at with that.
I can certainly add it to the conversation or to the retreat agenda. Actually, right now, we've invited, like Ms. Solano said earlier, someone from CML to give that legislative overview specifically geared to municipalities at our retreat. So we can, if we're already talking about lobbying in some way, we can definitely add that to our retreat agenda.
That's a big difference between a federal.
Mike.
There's a big difference between our state delegation and our state lobbying versus federal. And that's a discussion that we have to have in segregating those two and have a discussion about that.
Councilor Tencio.
Yeah, it should be said that CML has lobbyists on staff that are at the Capitol every single day. And any issues that are municipal issues, they advocate for those things. So we have lobbyists there.
Well, yeah, they advocate for us, but nobody's asked us. That's advocating for us is when they ask us and we have open discussions. Lobbyists?
Yeah, well, they have a policy committee. Mr. Mayor is the primary from our city. I'm the alternate. And the policy committee looks at all of the legislation, anything that has to do with municipalities. The policy committee gives advice to the board, and the board gives advice to the staff and lobbyists, and then they go on and do that business. We have a lot of legislation that CML is supporting and not supporting or are neutral on a lot of the issues. So,
And all that's reported on the CML's website.
Yeah, it is.
And it's updated regularly. So
Yeah.
if you want to know what bills are introduced or are contemplated being introduced, you check that website. I think I sent an email out today. They send out a weekly newsletter that shows these are the bills that we think are going to be introduced this week. This is where CML's at on them. So that, if you look at that, you'll get a pretty good idea of what they think are the important issues.
Other questions? Do you have anything, Councilor Runner?
Oh, I know what it was. We pay them quite a bit of money for a membership yearly. How much is that? Like, it's over 100,000, I think. It's not? You don't think so?
I don't remember either.
I think it's higher. It's like 60 anyway. Is it 60? It's in the 60s. Okay.
Also, Maestri.
Councilor Martinez, can we invite Crazy Faith Ministries in to give an update? They'd like to come in and talk about the success of their program so far.
Yes, I will work with Alyssa and Tracy about Crazy Faith Ministries about an update sometime soon. Other discussions? Seeing none, we're going to move on. We are amending the agenda tonight. So our friends at the ADA Advisory Committee, because of the inclement weather, had to reschedule their presentations today for February 27th. So that's when they're going to be speaking to us. And moving right along then is an ARPA follow-up presentation from United Way. So can I have Ms. Farmer to the podium, please?
I'm getting in there. Any cookies?
And I see Mr. Weber's joining her.
I have a couple guests.
She couldn't.
So whoever needs to talk needs to state their full name for the record.
Okay.
The same C.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having us back. I'm Shanna Farmer, President and CEO for United Way Public County, and I will have my guests introduce themselves.
I'm Reed, I'm Reed Weber. I'm the board chair.
I'm Jim Duff. I'm past treasurer and currently a member of the finance committee for United Way.
And we also have some other board members joining us, and so I want to thank them for showing their support. We have an incredible board, volunteers. That's really what makes United Way, is the people that are part of it. So thank you for all being here for this. So Reed, I'm going to let you kick it off, and then we'll jump into the PowerPoint.
Yeah, again, my name is Reed Weber. I'm the board chair this year for United Way of Pueblo County. I want to start off by thanking you all, Mayor Gradishar, City Council, and City staff for allowing this opportunity to come and speak with you today. United Way has a huge responsibility here in our community to serve those that need it. It's vital work that we do, and we support some of the most pressing needs that face individuals and families in our community of Pueblo. Over the past year and a half, I would say, the board has taken a lot of time and put in a lot of effort to really look at the mission and vision of our United Way and how we want to go forward into the future. We want to look at really supporting nonprofits here in Pueblo and making sure that we help them collaborate and have discussions so that we can really serve our community well and in the way that it needs to be served specifically. That's been a big job of ours, working on that strategic framework and revisioning the mission of United Way for our county. We've referred to this process very lovingly as future building, a little hashtag future building, and we like it because it kind of goes two ways. One, we want to build a better future for Puebloans, all Puebloans. We want to build a better future for our organization. We want to build up nonprofit partners in our community, and we want to build support for them here in Pueblo. So we're building a future, and we hope to have a building to build that future in. This project, which happens to include an actual building to house the nonprofit lead center, specifically aims to support our nonprofit community through capacity building and development. We know this is a very large undertaking, and the United Way of Pueblo County Board of Trustees is fully supportive and committed to ensuring that this is a sustainable and impactful endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. All right. Well, since we've been here before and we've gone over the project, I will do my best to be brief to allow plenty of time for questions. So in preparing today's presentation, I went back and the questions that came out of that work session in December and went question by question and tried to condense those into 5 key areas to circle back to. And of course, happy to answer any other questions as they come up. So these are just kind of the 5 areas that we're going to address this evening. All right, so we wanted to just clarify a little bit further some of the project rationale. And so as you well know, it's our 100th year. We've been saying this everywhere we go. So we're very proud of that history here. But one thing that has remained constant is always that service to our community and the nonprofit partners. But we have always been responsive. And so really been thoughtful about how can we meet the growing needs in our community. And so to do that, we've worked really hard to expand our fundraising efforts and really hoping to secure additional funds that we may not have otherwise been able to get here in Pueblo. We've worked in partnership with government and other nonprofits to administer funds, and so that's been a big part of our work. As you all know, and I think we've said before, that we always receive more grant requests than we can fully fund. And I think most funders would say that same thing. There are a lot of worthy projects and never enough money to fund them all. And so how do we make those dollars stretch as far as possible? And that's where this pillar around nonprofit capacity development really came from. Again, we are fundraisers year round. We have a strong fundraising plan in place for 2022-2023 with over 50 workplace giving campaigns in progress. And we work continually to diversify revenue to ensure that we're sustainable and able to help our community no matter what the landscape looks like, because a lot of donors and a lot of nonprofits will tell you that it's looked different in the last couple of years and we expect it to look different in the following. And this number is just really striking to me. When we looked back over 5 years of our history, just to show the impact of how hard United Way works, and that's in partnership with our team, our board, our donors, everybody in this community who's part of it, over $17 million leveraged between leverage dollars, in-kind dollars, and fundraising over the last 5 years. So case studies and impact, I know we talked a lot about last month, Larimer County as an example, but there are many in the United Way network, and I just put up a couple examples here. But United Ways around the country are seeing this void in their communities for nonprofit capacity development. And so they are responding in the same way. I wish we could say this was our unique idea, but it has been tried and true in other communities to really look at how can they impact. So just to give you an idea, there's 1,800 United Ways across the world. There's 1,200, there's just over 1,000 in the US, and there's 12 in Colorado. And so every United Way is really meant to look reflective of their community, to meet the needs in each community. Everyone is governed separately, but there are some themes, and this theme of nonprofit capacity building is one of them. So our projected outcomes, just to revisit this, these are some of the elements that we plan to offer as part of the project, but what does that really mean? And that means cost savings for those who participate, improved service delivery because more money can be spent on the mission work, expanded collaboration. It's amazing what can happen when you come out of your silos and work together. I've seen it before in different committees that I've served on, but sometimes you just have to help organizations or individuals connect, and suddenly they're able to really help each other meet some of those goals. They can also strive to get some of those goals together. So there's a lot of funding out there, that multi-agency applications, and so you can actually get more money by working together rather than working in silos and as competitors. We want to increase their capacity. That's the bottom line, is we want to increase our capacity, nonprofit capacity. That is the goal for the whole project. So project partners, this is a really tricky one because I know everyone wants to know exactly who's going to be in the building and when. And I would love to be able to tell you that, but to be really authentic and be really truthful with the answers, I can't right now. What I can tell you is we work with over 65 area nonprofits. Based on current projections of the size, so the building that we have been looking at and projecting as far as cost with this ARPA proposal, and also what is really manageable for the organization and sustainable, is about that 10,000 square feet. And so that means it could likely house 5 to 10 nonprofits that are permanent residents renting space. But that means there's a lot of other ways nonprofits can work together. So through trainings, through collaborations, through using meeting space, shared space, renting those areas out for their own meetings, their board meetings, there's a lot of ways they can engage. And so while the renter space is an important question, I also think it's something we need to be very thoughtful about. We probably will even need to think about creating guidelines to make sure it's an equitable process, because it will be something that's going to be very beneficial, but we may come to a place where it may be a competitive process because there's more demand than need. And you might say, well, bigger space, and that's great, but we also have to think about long-term sustainability of what we can confidently say we can sustain. So based on per square footage numbers, and just again, we're using so many estimates because there's a lot of what ifs. How much money will we be able to put into this project from potentially ARPA sources, grants, versus what we might have to owe on it? There's a lot of numbers that we're still crunching, but our best guess right now is that just the rent alone would save 25 to 30%. And I know that was a question of percentage saved to these nonprofits, and that's one number that we can right now kind of estimate, but it's only an estimate. So services will really be dependent based on the final location, because we've had some that say, this is a really good idea, I'd totally be interested, but where is it going to be? When will it be available? Because they might have a lease, they might not. And what is the final size of the building and cost and things like that. So as we said before, the budget is projected at around 1.7 million, and that number included the building purchase, technology and building updates, and also that year one for center operations. And so that number is dependent on, again, where we are, but those are reasonable costs that we put into that number. So we have submitted applications, as you well know, to the city for ARPA funding and the county for ARPA funding. Right now, I know there's the big county question. They have expressed interest. We did present to them on January 17th, and the Board of County Commissioners Chair, Harrison Ortiz, and also the county manager have assigned a public works staffer to attend some of our building committees to get a better idea of what the project is going to look like. So that's the best answer I have as far as where we stand with the county. Other funding prospects, there are foundations that have capital grants available, and you usually have to have about 75% of your capital raised before you can go after those. So a city ARPA investment would really allow us to leverage additional funds that are out there. So I put us on there as well just to show our long-term commitment because we are committed to ensuring the sustainability of the project moving forward. Okay, I think I just went over just a little, but now I'm going to hand it back to you all for questions for any of us up here.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer and team, for all of that information. What questions are there from council? Councilor Flores.
You know, there's such a need for nonprofits, especially the smaller ones, for organization
well, just for the training and the assistance really with their bookkeeping, their auditing. In fact, that area normally removes them from being able to even apply for grants. So I see a really big need there, along with, developing their boards. A lot of time their boards get no training. They come on board and, basically that is one thing that's lacking. The other thing is I see the ability of you being able to put together packages that would assist all of your boards because you've got a larger mass. And that would be like insurance programs, health insurance, liability coverage, workers' comp, all of that kind of stuff. I could see you really helping the nonprofit organizations in town in that area. But it's really this fiscal question about making sure that they are reporting everything to the state and all of that gets a lot of nonprofits in trouble. So I'm assuming that you are going to be able to provide some of those services now that you have this bigger building and your focus is somewhat going to change because you'll be hands-on with basically the nonprofits that you provide funding for too. So could you elaborate on that?
Sure. These are all excellent suggestions, and you're well informed on some of those needs that our nonprofits are facing. And so, yes, the short answer is yes. A lot of those things we're looking at, what can we provide, what's needed, and we have to ask those questions. What we do know from the conversations we've had and just our role in the community is exactly what you said. Those types of trainings are important. And so I think it's developing local content experts, but it's also partnering with really wonderful organizations that we could ideally subsidize to come and do more with us. So we have resources across the state, like the Colorado Nonprofit Association, Community Resource Center. What we don't want to do at United Way is reinvent the wheel. We want to enhance the wheel. We want to be able to offer more. And some of those wonderful trainings that they offer, they're so cost prohibitive for so many. And so what can we do to lower the barrier? Even having some of our nonprofit directors have to travel up north, those are barriers. So if we could bring more of that here for a much lesser cost and doing that full wraparound. And there's going to be a lot. There's so many things about running a nonprofit, but a lot of times people get into it because they want to serve people. And that's why we should be in this work, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're all bookkeepers or that we know governance and the laws. And so can we bring in those resources to help build them up? That is the ultimate goal. Councilor Maishy.
So are you planning on offering part of your rental package for space and common areas? Are you planning on offering as part of your package administrative and accounting services to those nonprofits?
So I think the short answer is it depends on what they would need. And so it's almost a menu of services, and you'd have to decide based on the need what we can reasonably do. Because we know that taking on more of those shared services, we have to increase staff capacity. And so if we only had one nonprofit that may not warrant, that needed, let's just say bookkeeping for ease of conversation here, if only one of them needed it, it might not warrant a full program, but we might need to connect them to resources, or it might be that we have, I always like to say, menu of services. And so what can we pair together? Because it also has to be cost effective for us in the long run and sustainable, but we are also the organization that's making community investments. And so if we see that as a big need, then that's an area that we need to do more work fundraising for, so we can offset and subsidize some of those costs.
This program that we are putting together, we had a goal that had to be cost neutral. And with most of the agencies, one of the things that is a significant cost, as was in your in the presentation, is 25-30% is for building costs or rent, debt service. With the plan that we put together here, and certainly with your help and county and anybody else that can assist us, is that we can eliminate that cost off of their budget if they become a partner in the building that we're looking at. Excuse me. with freeing up those funds, then they can enhance their programs. And we also built in, just as you said, is that we have in this particular plan is we do have the capacity to offer the collaboration of services, conference rooms, training, as Shannon said. So it's something that we think will benefit probably more the smaller organizations than the larger ones, because those costs are a bigger percentage of their budgets. And if we can squeeze that out, they can expand their services also.
So then the answer to the question, if you're not sure whether you're going to be able to offer the accounting or the admin services. Is that, because that's what I'm hearing, in the long response.
So part of that answer is around the need. And so we know that is a need. We just want to figure out exactly as far as a staffing pattern, what that would look like and make sure that that's a package that would be affordable to those who need it, but also something that we could cover our costs. And one example, not exactly what you're asking, but right now we do serve as the fiscal agent for some projects. And so those are projects that don't have their 501c3 status, but they need somebody to basically keep their books. And that is something we've already done. And so we would just have to have the ability to cover those increased staffing costs. And so we know the need is there. We just have to figure out to what percentage we would need to ramp up those staffing.
Okay. And then also you're saying your project is about 1.7 million, correct?
That's our best estimate at this point.
Okay. So you're asking us for 975,000. And so are you expecting 975,000 from the county?
We love that, but we don't know where the county is going to come in. So when we first applied for ARPA funding, we did ask for the whole thing to both, just to be transparent. We put in the full proposal, not knowing what the reasonable cost would, or the reasonable allocation would be. But at the end of the day, we also understand you probably want to see some skin in the game from other sources. And so what we are committed to is finding those other sources. So you're not the sole funder of the project. And
You don't have any funds of your own? Do you have funds of your own that you're putting in?
So the short answer is yes. We have had a very small building fund set aside. It's not nearly enough to do to really move forward with the building, but we also have a very strong organization. I defer.
Since this proposal came up, we currently rent space in the existing building.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that was budgeted for in there. And like I mentioned before, the goal is this is cost neutral to the United Way budget, because otherwise if we increase expenses and don't have revenue to cover it, that arithmetically comes out of programming. That'd be unconscionable.
So what you're saying is you couldn't do the project, take a loan out and be able to pay for a loan to.
On the long term, no. Short term, yes. We have cash reserves that we have in the short run to cover whatever elements come up in that face us, whether it's revenue shortfalls, increased programming costs, something like that. We have cash reserves. Business wise, those would be funds that you do not want to expend in the long term. Short term, like I said, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. So about how much do you have? I mean, how much do you have to put into it?
We have around 600,000. Basically, what we have established are 6 months of average operating costs.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just expand on that. We have, as United Way, thought about a building for United Way in the past. We hadn't necessarily thought about this magnitude of a project. And so when the ARPA funds came out, I remember somebody said, maybe it was you, Mayor, dream big. These are some funds for the community. And so City of Pueblo was right at the started these funds coming out, collecting ideas and projects. And so that's what we did with this might not be something we otherwise would have taken on, especially in a pandemic and a time where fundraising is really a different animal right now, but we know there's the need. And so we're willing to sustain it, but it would be really important to have these ARPA and other funding sources, because then we're also not competing with our own campaign that we're fundraising for the nonprofit community.
Yeah, I know. And since ARPA funding has come out and we've dispersed it to the taxpayers are paying attention, and then they're asking questions. They're calling us, asking questions, emailing us, asking questions as to why. So the questions are coming from not personally myself, but speaking with my constituents when they call. The other thing is so your dream is to have this place and to serve other nonprofits or to collaborate with other nonprofits. One of the things that I think that the community is also concerned about is what about, accountability from a lot of the nonprofits. We saw just most even recently in the 29th Street cleanup where we had expected the nonprofits to probably come out, set up, and serve the people that they were cleaning out of the encampment. Instead, they showed up and gave out some business cards, and there was really no follow-up to see, really, some nonprofits, are they accomplishing? Are we finding solutions in what they're offering? And when you collaborate like that, people are expecting, well, United Way is overseeing it. Are they having some accountability with these nonprofits? And, just besides renting them space, because it is, a lot of this is taxpayer money. And so the other thing I'm going to ask you, and I've asked nonprofits before and they've answered me.
Can just really fast, can you pause that question so we can ask over here?
This is my last question. What is your salary and overhead percentage of your entire, what you bring in every year?
So that is such an important question. And I will say it has fluctuated depending on some of those COVID funds that came in. So we saw a low year, but we've always kept it. We've always tried to keep it low. But I would say during COVID, when we had that influx of those funds, we were at 8%. And this last audit, we were at, mind you, a lot of those funding sources were one time, and we ended at 14.
So 14% of the entire monies that you collect go to salaries and overhead.
Yes, and I know that gets rolled in, and a lot of that is important. No one wants to pay for lights, but those lights make the programs happen. But yes, and we're proud of that number. We've worked really hard to keep that as low as possible, but at the same time ensuring that we are, paying our staff and having the resources needed to do the work.
Well, that sounds like a pretty reasonable number compared to what I've heard.
Thank you.
I will say too, as a board, we always talk about being good stewards of those donor dollars and any monies that we get. We want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for every single dollar that we do come into contact with. So, when we talk about spending money, we're very conservative with our planning and what we do with those funds to make sure that we're going to be here to continue to provide the support that we have, and also taking care of our staff. I think, in nonprofit communities, you don't see that those staffs are being paid very much or getting much time off or the very low benefits. And I think it's very important as a city that we pay our nonprofit workers well and take care of them as much as we can because they do so much for us.
Thank you.
Questions over here? Councilor Graham?
Not really a question, but I think my only concern is this is the biggest single, funding that we would be giving $1 million, to one single nonprofit. In return, you would be helping several other nonprofits. I understand that. But the what ifs on who may or may not be in the building is something I'm really struggling with because it's hard to wrap my head around who are you guys going to be working with. And I get the demand part and the leases and all that. But that's hard for me to picture that and who will be in there and how that will work.
And I think we've talked about that. You know, one of the things that we see this LEAD center doing is helping newer nonprofits get on their feet and get moving. Having things like a printer and access to Zoom and technology and a conference room aren't things that a lot of smaller nonprofits have. So, but by providing that support on a very basic level, a lot of those nonprofits may not even exist yet. The ones that end up being there and really being serviced by us and supported.
Yeah, also, that's a very good question, because we will only consider anybody that is parallel with the mission of United Way. You know, we're not going to just any nonprofit comes in and makes their pitch that, oh, this would help me out with my overhead. No, it has to go along with the mission. And in a broad sense, it's the human service type agencies that we would consider, just not anybody.
And I think it's safe to say that we all would be willing to work with the city on kind of what you would want to see in there, because we certainly want to be held accountable. You should be asking us those questions, and we should be reporting them to you. And we'd be happy to even report on a regular basis back on what the outcomes are. And if there are times where you say, hold on, time out, we don't like where this is headed, I think that then there's a conversation of how can we improve, because that's something we constantly want to be improving. And we know that on day one of the building being purchased is not going to be full, because we need to do some partnership development or expansion and really identifying who needs the space the most and who really meets those requirements that whatever parties, if you all had some suggestions on here's kind of what we want to see, some strings attached, you have every right to do that. But as Jim said, making sure it's in alignment with our mission, we certainly want to keep, but it's a very broad mission, because while we have the grants that we fund, we also do a lot of donor designations, and those are pretty broad reach as well. So I certainly appreciate the concern, and I think it's a valid one. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're serving the nonprofits that really need it the most.
Councilor Tenzio.
I think the word that's most important to me is collaboration, in that I see a lot of the nonprofits and organizations all over Pueblo, everybody's in their own silo doing their own thing, and we don't collaborate as much as we should. I don't know that other cities are any better, but I'm sure that some of them are. But I like the idea of bringing people together in one place, sharing the ideas, sharing the not only the physical space, but more than that, collaborating and bringing everybody's ideas to the table, because every single organization will benefit from that and be able to give even more services if they learn something from another organization in a place where they'll get that information rather than not getting anything at all because they don't collaborate or talk to anybody else. So I really like the idea.
Collaboration is hard, and it does take an effort. And so if we can help make that a little bit easier for those, and not just those who actually physically residing there, but those that are coming to use the space, and that we can offer these kinds of things at low or no cost to them, that I think will really help the collaboration.
Councilor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you. What is the difference of your strategy of funding campaigns from previous years to this last year and this current year? Because I heard that last year's campaign wasn't as traditional as before, and so some folks have stepped away from the donating for those traditional campaigns.
So if I speak broadly, United Ways are really founded upon that workplace employee campaign. And I know you mentioned you had a history of that and remember that. And that is still a big part of what we do. In some markets, it's going down faster than others. Donors are just different, and the workplaces are different. And so United Ways across the country have been seeing a decline for about the last 20 years in workplace giving campaigns. And fortunately, we have an incredibly generous public community here, but we have seen a decline in our workplace campaigns. And the data says that will probably continue. People don't stay at their same jobs as long as they used to. We used to have donors that would be at a Stillman for 30, 40 years giving. And that has changed. Not to say that that's still not a big part of what we do, but how we interact and secure donors has to look different. So we still have 50 plus workplace employee campaigns that are underway or in the process of getting underway for this year. And, luckily we have weathered the COVID storm fairly well. But we also know that revenue diversification is going to be the key for us and for any nonprofit in terms of, you don't want to be too heavily any one mode of donor, whether it's individual, corporate, or grants contracts. And so we have been very thoughtful about expanding our ability to secure additional grants and contracts, which is an area that we were much more heavy on the individual donors, and we're still going to do that, but we know the needs are growing. And so DOLA, that's a recent grant we just received. So Department of Local Affairs did award $500,000, and that is going to be for grants for small nonprofits, and small is under 2 million. And we're still looking at the state to figure out exactly how that's going to roll out. But that's just an example of some money that we were able to bring back to Pueblo and for other surrounding counties to make sure that we have fair representation here. And there's more funds I've been told that may be available. So diversification is really the short answer.
Great, thanks. And the collaboration of services, are those primarily only available to the folks at U-Umbrella under your roof, correct? The 501c3s?
No. So we want to provide the resources to any nonprofit that's in the community. And we also, we say nonprofit a lot because that's our main client, if you will, but we also partner with government and other entities, but the services would be available to any nonprofit. So if they're renting there, great. If they're not renting in the building, great. Because we know there's going to be organizations, they just need far more space, for example, than we can provide. But they still have some of the same challenges that every nonprofit faces. And so some of those training, development, networking opportunities, and again, partnerships. And I just think about multi-agency funding potential. If we could, sometimes all it takes is just knowing and realizing that this is going on and then connecting them with each other.
I guess as you can already identify the issues that nonprofits and startup 501c3s are facing, why not save $1.5 million and start helping some of those folks out now without providing rental space? Do you know what I mean? You can already rent a space from the library and put these trainings on. You could already be reaching out to nonprofits and saying these accounting services or whatever, what have you, are already available. So why have a building to do that? I mean, that's seems like overkill.
Well, and we certainly do provide resources to nonprofits and try to help connect them to resources, and even providing other funding organizations some resources. So, we really do work hard to provide those resources. And I know when we talk about the building, we just think about it as a building, but there's a lot that can happen to have that dedicated space for nonprofits. And so, libraries and other shared spaces are wonderful, but there's no real dedicated space. And so I know it can be a challenge, especially we were displaced out of our building for a little bit during the summer due to some cooling issues, and trying to find a place for us to house, even for board meetings and things like that, it was hard to have that consistent location. And so we moved around a little bit. The Tina Chamber really did help us as well, but there's definitely a need for more of that space when you're talking about group meetings or trainings, and then you add in the technology component, and that's a whole nother ballgame.
Great, thanks. Just one last quick question. Are you going to have any other part of your strategy of funding campaigns for this building, aside from the county or city, ARPA, and those other two? Are you going to try to fundraise locally and do some of those more boots on the ground, door knocking kind of fundraising techniques for this building?
So I would say we're pretty good at some of that boots on the ground, and we love that because what we say at United Way is every dollar makes a difference. And so we work really hard to have those employee workplace campaigns. We work hard for individual donor outreach and other ways to raise money. What we don't want to do and we don't want to take away from, and I think is one of the reasons why we haven't taken on a project like this before, is we don't want to take away from the other campaign of where we are granting out to those community investment partners and those programs that are providing those services. And so we don't want to become our own competitor. So we have to be really careful about that as well. And so I would be careful about kind of that one-on-one for the building because we're raising money for the overall campaign. But if we had some funding secured, we could look to other funders, major funders that require a certain percentage to already be raised for capital, but we can look for some additional capital funding.
Thank you.
I have questions. Shannon, thanks for clarifying. I was born and raised in a nonprofit household. I think that nonprofits do help to meet the city's needs where we can't necessarily fund programs, but I want to echo some points that I'm struggling with because there are spaces available, like at the library, when you're talking about Zoom and printing costs and admin things. And Petco has their own building, the Latino Chamber has their own building. So help me understand why it has to be this whole separate building when you can already be creating those training and development and networking opportunities, which I think is great. I'm struggling in that.
Sure. And right now we're really limited by the staff, the staffing capacity that we have. So there's a piece of that. And so part of the budget is to expand operations in terms of some of those trainings. But the other piece is the coordination that really has to happen. So it is hard to have some recurring things. And so I think it goes back to having that dedicated space of, right here in-house where nonprofits can come together, not where they're across town, but you actually have them coming together on a regular basis in various ways through that shared space, through shared work. Flexible workspace is the other term. And so that's what makes it different, is that we don't necessarily see these other places serving as that for the nonprofits in general. And please don't get me wrong, we're so thankful to the library and other partners for that space, but this is just really all about nonprofit focused work.
I will say too, I serve on a number of different nonprofit boards. One of them is the Pueblo Day Nursery Children's Foundation. We don't have an office. We kind of exist electronically, but they used to have an office somewhere. And so when we have to go have our meetings, we have to find a room somewhere, find it, make sure that it's available, reserve it. We have to get there, try to figure out how to work their technology every time. It's always different. And that's a big pain in the butt to deal with and try to get people together and then have a meeting and then your Zoom's not working or your presentation won't pop up or nobody has Wi-Fi. And those are all things that would be streamlined and made easier by having a place that's made specifically for that purpose.
Yeah, and if the ultimate goal is in a couple of years, the nonprofit center, it provides all of that great space, it provides the technology. Wouldn't that be then another scenario in which nonprofits are then having to go there and schedule those meetings and compete with other nonprofits to get into a conference room? You know what I mean?
One of the buildings that we've used to kind of come up with our estimates has more than one conference room. So yeah, there would be some of that inherent stuff in there, but I think, you'd have a dedicated staff member who, sits at the front desk and helps them get in there. And they're used to that one space that they go to and they can book it there every month and be there on time. In my mind, it just sounds like it would be a lot easier, specifically, when I'm thinking about Pueblo Day Nursery Children's Foundation in our meetings, if we had one place to go to that was the same place every single time, that had somebody there to help us with the technology. Other nonprofits are there. You're going to have some networking opportunities, I'm sure. It would be a lot easier and more beneficial to us in that way.
And the cost, the 1.7 million budget that was talked earlier, half of it, or a good portion, is going to be the building. And then the other part of it was center operations. Can you talk a little bit more about what's included in the center operations?
Absolutely. So, we know that day one, we're not going to have all the recurring costs covered. So running the building, we've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in this process about if you take a 10,000 square foot building, just how much it costs to run it. And it's certainly more than I would have imagined. And so having some buffer in there to cover that first year so that we're not completely subsidizing the United Way, but that we could recoup some of that and some of that tenant fee, but we don't want to turn it into we're making money off of our nonprofits. We want to be able to cover costs. And so that first year gives a buffer. It also gives some ability to evaluate increased staffing that might be needed, as Reed said, having dedicated staff to help these nonprofits in whatever way, whether it is to set up their meeting space, to have that ready, to look at other staffing, as we talked about, based on those needs, to provide those services, those shared back office services. And so that provides a nice ramp up period in that center operation. So the utilities and insurance and all that goes into running it for a year.
Councilor Flores.
Yeah, we started talking about, and we get this complaint all the time about people in Pueblo working in silos. And then we talk about collaborating. And I think that we will continue, I guess, working in silos if nonprofits, have to bounce around to look for space and all of that. I really like your idea because I think it has so much merit in collaboration and bringing a lot of these organizations, not only to be your tenants, but also to provide training, centralized training. And then there's a whole other educational piece, which we still have individuals in this community that believe that nonprofits, we shouldn't fund nonprofits as a city. But I got to tell you, the amount of social problems that are solved by our nonprofits in this organization, or in this city, and through these organizations is immense. Imagine not having Colorado Blue Sky, who deals with the developmentally disabled, not having the housing authority, over 1,800 housing units, not having Health Solutions, who does an enormous work in mental health, and you go on and on, Pueblo suicide prevention, child abuse and domestic violence. The city has no ability to be able to provide those services. The other interesting thing is eliminate all the nonprofits in Pueblo, we would not be receiving the funding by these professional organizations that come into Pueblo that are provided by grants by the federal government, the state, whatever. So it is an area in our community that we do not help enough. We don't understand enough. We don't really give nonprofits the credit that's really due in the things that they do for this community. And I love your concept. I think that it's right on. And, I personally will be supporting this ARPA request.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging the nonprofit community, because we're very lucky here for all that we have.
Councilor Maestri.
So if you didn't get this building, United Way is really going to go on about its business the way it always does, correct? The only thing is you wouldn't have your own space.
We're not going to stop doing what we do. It just may not be able to look like this, but this would certainly be a value add to the community. Mm-hmm. But no, we certainly have, big plans for the work that we do, because we know it's important. We know we have a lot of work to do because there's a lot of need. And so we take that very seriously and work very hard to do what we can to raise those funds.
Yeah, there is a lot of need. In fact, I think one of the key things that Councilor Flores had said, professional services. Professional services are services where you come in, you go into business, you know exactly what you're doing, you know your needs, you fulfill those needs so that you can provide. And so that's one of the things I think that makes this look, we're helping nonprofits help people. That doesn't make sense. You guys came in, you come into your community, as professionals, you serve the community, and nobody's trying to build you as you go along. And so that's one of the things that kind of looks towards, that brings maybe a con to the situation rather than a pro, is we need for people to be ready to go, knowing how to receive their grants, knowing how to build the business portion plan of it. It's a nonprofit, but it's still a business and it still runs like a business. And so to say that you're going to take what you have and now you're going to teach the other nonprofits that don't have the ability to make it, well, maybe they, you know, that's the dream. You wake up saying, I want to help people and they'll help me help people. And so sometimes you have to have more skin in the game than that. So just rather than just the dream. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, real quick, we got 7 nonprofits up here. Half the time I'm working out of my car. Half the time I'm trying to find a coffee shop someplace when somebody wants to meet with me and you know, so it would really help. I mean, this is a great place and, you know, we can do things here, but by the same token, I know what you're talking about.
Any other questions for United Way? Seeing none, thank you, United Way team, for coming tonight and all that time. Up next, moving right along, is the local impact of wine sales in stores from the state ballot measure. So can I please have Mr. Lucas and Miss Siebold to the podium, please? Councilor Flores on record just said, I don't see any glasses. And it could be easier too if you want to line them up after, like right there on the little shelf so we can see them. I don't know, Brian. Yeah.
I hit the button. Oh, hi, my name is Brian Lucas. I am an owner of Big Bear Wine and Liquor, and I just want to thank you for your time today.
Hi, push the button.
Hit the button.
My name is Jackie Siebold, and I also am an owner of Big Bear Wine and Liquor. I currently sit on the Liquor Enforcement Division Working Group and have for 5 years. And recently just started doing some work with the Liquor Enforcement Division's Advisory Group, which is in our 3rd meeting. And I've been TIP certified trainer, like a train the trainer program for about 5 years. So first, just want to thank you guys for letting us kind of update you on some changes that are coming with the passage of 125. We felt that because this particular section of retail is so complicated that we could share some light and maybe answer any questions you guys have about the upcoming changes. So let me just tell you real quick how we got here. Everything was fine, as Daryl will tell you, until 2016. In 2016, the grocery stores decided they wanted beer. We compromised. There was meetings until midnight, a lot of tears, and boom, bada bing, bada boom, they got their way. And they told us everything's going to stay the same until 2037, when you guys can have unlimited license and everything will be great. Since 2016, every single legislative session has brought with it some little tiny changes. And these little tiny changes make us on the working group make some little tiny rule changes. So all these little insertions have really led to some inconsistencies in the liquor code and the liquor rules. So finally, the governor just, and I'm sure you're aware because I've seen your name on some stuff,
the governor has called for an advisory group to be put together. And in the packet, I put the letter just for reference so you guys can see. So the governor realizes that we have some inconsistencies and we have some things that are going on that need clarity. So 41 people got together and they're now part of the advisory group. When I say that I'm here to shed some light on these impacts with you guys, it's not because I don't or we don't believe that you guys aren't smart enough to figure this out on your own. You guys have some great tools. You guys have great resources. It's because when we put 41 people in a room that have been in the liquor business for the majority of their lives, they came up with 8 pages, single space, 8 font of questions. So if these people that have been in the liquor industry for their whole lives have 8 pages of single page or single space questions, so now they're past 125, and that is going to have a bunch of impacts on our city and our citizens. So Brian, why don't you talk about the economic impact first?
All right, so we're almost days away from Proposition 125 actually going into effect, and it's going to have a huge economic impact. Pueblo. So there are currently 30 liquor stores, give or take, but they're not liquor stores. They're local businesses. They're owned by families, mom, pops. What do they do for our town? You know, they generate sales tax, they have employees, they have payroll tax, they have property tax, personal property tax, utilities, they pay use tax, they give donations to the community. I mean, we're talking about 30 businesses that are an integral part of our community. That being said, when Proposition 125 goes into effect, we're probably going to lose about 2/3 of those businesses. So we're going to go from about 30 to about 10. I'll go into why and how. So when that does happen, so how is Pueblo going to benefit from having the alcohol, the wine and liquor in grocery stores? Well, financially, it's not. We're going to see $0. There's going to be zero benefit for when that change happens. But what you will see is instead of any dollars being generated when these sales go into big box stores, you're going to see a loss of revenue because we're going to lose those 20 businesses. You are going to lose the sales tax. You're going to lose the employees. You're going to lose the payroll tax, the personal property tax, utilities. You're going to lose all that revenue because of this change that's going to happen next month. So then you think, all right, well, does it get any worse? It does get worse. So not only are you going to lose that, so when these sales go into the big box stores, the city is actually going to lose even more sales tax dollars. How? Because of theft. So in the Walmarts, in Kroger's, King Soopers, there's a huge theft problem. We all know it's nationwide. It's not just our town. So when that happens, you're going to see that those items, like whether it's wine or it's liquor, when it's stolen, doesn't go through the cash wrap. So you're going to lose those dollars. The person that makes the money or the people that steal it, and they're selling on Marketplace, Craigslist, you name it, the workaround. I mean, it's an industry. It's the number 2 loss leader for Walmart. It goes meats, which I didn't know was number 1. Then it's alcohol, then cosmetics. I also include a little diagram. So you also think, all right, well, hey, Walmart, they're King Soopers. They're going to sell a ton of wine. That's going to generate sales tax. No, it's still the same amount of drinkers. So wherever it goes, we sell the same amount of drinkers, the same amount of products are going to be sold. It's just those dollars get relocated. So instead of the 20 mom pop businesses, now that those dollars and funds just go into Walmart. Did you want to talk about?
I just want to just circle back on your Walmart point. So we have talked to some people at Walmart in Pueblo, and we can confirm that their theft at one Walmart in Pueblo is over $1.5 million. So just times that by 2, because we have 2 and then add some other stores. I'm sure we would all like to have that sales tax back. The CEO of Walmart has confirmed that 20% of the shrink across the company happens in the checkout lines. So do you want to talk about what Walmart did or what California did?
Yeah. So what California did that kind of helped with the not only theft, but the kind of safety issue, they went ahead and banned all self-checkout. So I wanted to bring that up too. I know we're out of time, so I'm going to make this really quick. So self-checkout helps kids get alcohol. So I'm going to say it again. So kids, because of self-checkout, they're able to get alcohol. And it is astonishingly how easy it is. I had no idea until we actually did it. We looked it up, did all those all the little things and found out. Sorry, how do they steal? So if you look on my little thing, so the biggest way they steal is they'll take an item that looks like another item that has alcohol. So in our industry, we know everything that's new. We know what to look for. 90% of our, or 99% of our sales are alcohol. So we think, all right, make sure you're carding. We know we're selling alcohol. It's the reverse of big box store. But so Monster just released an alcohol version. So it's called the Beast. It's in that green can right there. So they both look almost identical. So what these kids do,
Really fast brain. That's alcohol?
yeah, the one that says Beast is alcohol.
Wow. One has alcohol, this one doesn't.
And obviously it's geared towards kids. I mean, the packaging, like it looks fun. Like, and right now, I don't know if you noticed, but kids these days, they collect cans. They collect can art. It's a big thing. But so what they do is the number one scan they do right now is when they scan the similar item, they'll scan that alcohol version twice. They'll go beep, beep, take both. They take the alcohol, the non-alcohol, put it right in the bag. And then that prevents the scale from doing anything because they both weigh 25 ounces and the cameras aren't picking it up. The labels are so similar, you're not going to see it. And because now we're going to self-checkout pretty much everywhere, that you have one person, maybe two people trying to look at 15 cash wraps. So they're not paying attention to what exactly that picture looks like for self-checkout. They also use reusable bags. That's a big thing right now. Our family does it. Every family does it. You put your bags in your car. You put your items in there in the bags. It still feels weird. It feels like you're stealing, but you're not. You go to the cash wrap. You unload everything. Well, what they do is they unload everything except for that one or two cans. So you don't know any different. The store doesn't know any different. So it just kind of passes right through there, right under their nose. There's 4 or 5 other ways they do it. I mean, touch on CEO. The CEO of Walmart actually said, that self-checkout practically begs customers to steal. And not even just customers, kids. I'm worried about kids. I'm worried about minors. I'm worried about the 12-year-old, the 15-year-old. And it's that young now. I mean, back in my day, like 18, whatever, but now it's 12-year-old kids. They're getting alcohol and getting drunk. It only takes 1 or 2 beers to get drunk when you're that young. If you go on to the next slide, it's so easy. You just Google it. You can Google how to steal from a cash wrap. You can go on TikTok, you can do it. You can go on Reddit. There's a page on Reddit that says illegal life pro tips. It actually goes step by step how to get alcohol when you're a minor. It's that simple.
So on the books now, and I include in here, there's a legislative brief that comes out every time that there's some kind of weird issue that comes up. And it specifically says, as late as November this past year, a reminder when this stuff comes out, when the wine goes into the grocery stores, it is written in the law that you'll see on the second page, when you are alerted, when you scan the alcohol and you are alerted, someone comes over to check your ID, they must stay with you until the completion of the sale. That does not happen. It doesn't happen anywhere. So if you scan your Bud Light and you have 76 other items, that cashier needs to stay with you the whole time. That doesn't happen. They put it in the brief, they put it in the liquor code, they put it in the liquor rules. And still it doesn't get enforced. So how do we fix that? So we think that right now the problem is self-checkout. I get it. I'm not against anything. I'm just self-checkout is where we are stealing from. My son is 12 years old. These kids are just, things are so different now. It is so easily accessible. We hear about one kid every weekend in our little circle that got alcohol. They're going to the grocery store. They are taking these cans. They're putting them in Dr. Pepper boxes. These kids weigh 60 pounds. They need 2 beers to get drunk. Drunk. So that doesn't happen in a retail liquor store because I see everybody that comes in my store. There's 4 or 5 people in the store. And we see a little kid walk in and we're like, what are you doing in here? So we think that we're going to ask City Council if we could come up with an ordinance that says no self-checkout. It's too risky right now to have these kids have this kind of accessibility. Walmart in California sued them, and because it's now banned, and then it was appealed, and they lost an appeal. It is still illegal. Massachusetts is trying to similarly get self-checkout banned. Alternatively, if you guys feel like it's written in the law and we don't have that kind of latitude, then I want one point of sale. Right now, you cannot buy a gun on Register 3. you have to go to the tobacco aisle. So you can't buy tobacco, you have to go to the tobacco checkout. So alcohol, tobacco, and firearms is all regulated by the same agency, but we're very concerned about a 13-year-old smoking a pack of cigarettes and driving, but we don't care if they drink a 6-pack of Bud Light and drive. Because I care. So I would like to see just some parity in that. Pueblo right now has on the books a one point of sale and a face-to-face only checkout for tobacco. That's an ordinance that you guys wrote, that you guys put into effect. And I just wonder why cigarettes are more dangerous than alcohol. So these are our questions for you tonight. So we would ideally, since enforcement is not, I don't think enforcement's achievable. We would like to see wine not go into liquor or go into grocery stores at all. I don't know if that's even something you guys want to entertain, but if it's not, I think the self-checkout ordinance or an ordinance that says one point of sale is very viable and it's necessary. We have kids that are, you can read studies all day long, and some say, oh, kids die more of gunshots, and oh no, sometimes they die more of alcohol. Either way, they both need to be regulated, but we don't regulate alcohol at the grocery store at all. We can just walk around. You guys know, you guys have all shopped at Walmart or King Soopers or Safeway and ask somebody for tinfoil, and they're like, I don't know where that is. It's just a different environment. People are allowed, little kids are allowed to be in these places. So I think this one point of contact is something our city needs, and our city needs to worry about our city. We can wait for the governor to come through and this advisory group to make some omnibus bill, and we can fight about it. But the truth is, it's going to take a long time. They have a year just to discuss it. We have another meeting which you guys should all sit in on. I think on the 3rd, I don't know, it's in a week or so. But they don't even know where to start to change the law. But we have the ability to do something now to save our kids and to promote some kind of safety without hurting the impact monetarily for anyone.
Yeah, correct. How many more kids do we need to see die from being drunk underage in a car? It happens all the time. Happens in our community, other communities. How many more times do we need to see that? So that's why we're asking for this.
So what questions do you guys have for us? I know that was a lot of information, but we got to get it in there quickly.
Dan,
There you
can
go.
you help to answer some of these questions that Mr. Lucas and Ms. Siebold have?
Well, we have special rules for the sale of tobacco and tobacco products under state law. The state sets forth how you sell tobacco. All of this is a matter of state law. The voters said, right now, King Soopers can sell beer. And what the voter says is, we want to add wine, vinous spirits to that. So starting in March, you can buy wine and beer at grocery stores. You cannot buy hard liquor. So far, only King Soopers and Family Dollar have applied for permission to sell wine in the city of Pueblo. We haven't heard from Safeway or Albertsons or Walmart yet.
That's a problem.
So are they coming? I don't know. But the point I want to make is similar to abortion clinics. This is a matter of state law. We can't have separate rules in Pueblo.
We can't have a point of sale. We can't have just one point of sale on top
It's already in the state law.
for tobacco. It's not for liquor?
It's for liquor. It's in the state law.
2 follow-ups. you're right, absolutely 100% right. The voters of Pueblo or the voters said they want wine in liquor stores or in grocery stores. The voters of Pueblo absolutely said, no, they don't want it. And you are correct. I don't believe that we have the power to stop it from coming into the grocery store because it is a matter of state law. So is tobacco. And if tobacco is not required by state law to be sold at one point of purchase, that is why you wrote a city. So how come you wrote a city ordinance about it if it was
Correct. It is required.
Is there
Sale of tobacco
a city ordinance that requires one point of face-to-face purchase?
for tobacco?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So what would be the need for you to have that if it was a state law?
It's in the state law.
Right, but why did we take time to write a city ordinance about it?
Because it tracks state law, because we've expanded it, not just to cigarettes and cigars, but also to vaping products.
I didn't know that ordinance. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
We have it.
that is right. And this, I fully am aware and understand that we don't trump and you guys can't trump state law. I get that 100%. But the one point of sale, you absolutely have the power to do. California did it. California, and they got sued and appealed and won on appeal. We're in the same country as California.
And the one point of purchase is not a state law. It's not, they have no standing on it yet.
I just looked at it in the materials you handed out.
That's for self-checkout, but not single point of purchase.
Also, FMBs automatically just
So
transfer it into a wine.
self-checkout, the law requires that if somebody is buying buying beer at King Soopers, the clerk has to enter the code. Clerk has to check the ID.
Would you like to say we have about 45 minutes of video of that never happening? It does not happen.
Well, then they're violating state law and it should be turned over to the state.
So how should we, as a city, how do we protect our children from doing it?
You punish the grocery stores that are not complying with state law.
They have more money than us. They never get in trouble for anything.
Going back to city.
I mean, they have a license that's issued.
Yes.
And we revoke it if that's the pattern that they're engaging in.
Yeah, and it's a pattern. It's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it's scary.
We have so many videos. It is.
Videos in problem?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Videos that I took.
Well, we'd like to see them and we'll
Show you. But going back
have visitors to show cars why their licenses should not be revoked.
Perfect.
Because they have both state and local licenses. If you have evidence of violations of the liquor code, bring it to us and we will prosecute.
Okay.
We will hold people accountable.
And I wholeheartedly believe that you guys will, because I know that you guys are we're on the same side here. So, I mean, I trust me when I say I'm not worried about my business. I'm going to be okay. But some other businesses are not going to be okay. And I just really feel like there's a way to have single point of purchase. If California could find a way to do it, so can we.
And it's not in the Colorado statute, single point of purchase.
Ms. Seabold, you're a law school graduate and you know that different states have different laws.
Right.
What's applicable in California is not applicable in Colorado unless the state legislature says so,
Okay.
not the Pueblo City Council.
But there's no law for single purchase on the state level.
Point of purchase?
Single point of purchase. There's no law currently. It's like-
No, you can do self-checkout.
Yeah, but they don't say you have to or can't do single point of purchase.
You know?
So the way that we read, and we could be wrong, I'm not a practicing attorney, you are. So we are a home rule city and we can have an opinion as a city council can have an opinion on something that is not explicitly laid out in state law, and single point of purchase is not explicitly laid out in state law.
But you have to, when there is, well, it's there when somebody, instead of doing self-checkout, buys an alcoholic beverage and presents an ID. Self-checkout, the clerk is required to enter a code for that to be entered.
But that's self-checkout. We're not talking about self-checkout. They can also just go to any register and
In our code.
present their ID. We're talking about a single point of purchase, just like cigarettes.
And so you want to do away with self-checkout?
I want to put on the books, single point of purchase.
So the city of Pueblo
As
is
a
going to
safety-
outlaw
as a safety-
self-checkout. Is that what you're?
No, not all self-checkout. I want you to buy cigarettes in the same manner you buy alcohol.
Well, if the state legislature says we can do that,
They don't say we can't, so we're not going against the state.
I think, Mr. Kukosik, now that you've heard it, maybe you and your office can look into if it's feasible to implement at the city level, given it's not.
give me an example of another city in the state of Colorado that's done that.
Well, I think we would be the first, which would be great.
Well, I've heard that argument before
Right,
too.
right. Also just wanted this to clarify, and I can give you this copy, this bulletin that just came out. Everybody that, is that, I think it's a different, is that the bulletin? Is that you just printed it? So wait, so you just misspoke then, because you don't have to, nobody has to apply to sell wine. And they don't have to apply to sell wine.
You would have to.
It says right here, it says right here, people say Colorado voted,
You have
will automatically
Since just-
convert to fermented malt beverage and wine, fermented beverage, so it's automatically gonna convert.
The grocery stores do have to apply for modification of premises. If they're adding specific shelving or additional spots, they do have to apply for that.
Correct.
To compensate for the wine products.
Oh, that's confusing.
Until
Yeah, it says,
twenty twenty-three.
if the licensed premises remains the same, other than adding your spirits, then no modification is needed.
Revoked licenses.
Yeah, we have a fermented malt beverage. We have a fermented malt beverage license right now. The state is just adding wine to fermented malt beverage wine retailer for off-site businesses only.
But just like any other retailer, if they violate the code,
They violate.
license can be revoked.
Correct, 100%.
So, okay,
Talk about my. Yeah. You know, our deputy city clerk who works with liquor licenses may have some information that would be helpful. So regarding this passing, that I did some courtesy compliance check inspections with Key Supers and Sam's Club for the new stock that's coming in. And one of the processes I talked to them about is when alcohol goes through any checkout line, there's a code that comes up that they have to type in. Somebody has to verify the ID to move forward. I was at Sam's Club and I physically saw it happen where the alcohol came up, the clerk, it stopped anybody working, the clerk had to come over, verify the ID no matter the age, typed in a code and the sale continued. And that was all the registers.
did they stay with you for the entire transaction?
No.
Well, then that's against the law.
I understand, I'm just pointing out the parts that I see.
And that proves that face-to-face actually works, because you went and they looked at you and it worked.
And it works, yes.
So that's my argument. Face-to-face is what I want to see. Face-to-face works.
And we're worried about minors stealing from self.
Face-to-face is required for self-checkout when you're buying alcohol and wine.
Okay, so I will go tomorrow and I will let you know every single person. So they must stay with me. So they can't leave and go to another register and help anyone else. They must stay until I'm done.
That code, their job is done.
Nope, it's actually not. It's it says in the, it's hold on, I highlighted it for you in like the second section or maybe the last section. They actually have to stay. It says assistance from completion of the entire transaction by an employee of a liquor license drugstore. They must stay to the completion. Completion is payment, no?
Well, if they're violating it, bring this evidence and we'll prosecute.
That's all I'm saying is completion means they pay.
Bring this evidence, we'll prosecute.
I'm all for it because I have a 13-year-old sitting right here and I don't want him or any of his friends to get a hold of this stuff. And it is so easy. It was boring. It was boring after a while. We went to so many places. We lost interest. And it was even more fun because we were having trouble like, hey, how do we buy a bag? And they were just like, oh, put the code in and didn't check anything. So I will be more than happy. But then what I'm gonna ask from you guys is that you don't come back and be like, oh, Big Bear's the crazies. I'm not. I want to see that the code and the law is enforced. And I don't mean a $3,000 fine to Walmart's nothing. So that's my issue is they don't care because if I get in trouble, I'm gonna have a big sticker on the front of my door, but they don't have that. Their sticker goes somewhere in Minneapolis or wherever they're located. I just want to see face to face is what works. Face to face deters kids from buying alcohol. Face to face is what we need. And I don't think that we should be scared to be the first ones to challenge what's going on.
Really fast, Ms. Siebold. So Counselor Graham, it's okay. Counselor Graham has a question, and then Counselor Maestri has a question, and then Counselor Atencio has a question. And okay,
So just to dumb it down, you would like the council to pass an ordinance to make it more strenuous for people to purchase alcohol through one point of sale. Yes, just like tobacco, which the council can do because we're not making it less strenuous than the state law. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's already a state law.
But there is no state law about a 1 point of sale. So the council could
Now,
enact.
state law authorizes self-checkout of alcohol.
Right. But the city could enact.
The city does not have authority to ban self-checkout of alcohol.
So if
The
we,
state can give us that authority, but we do not have it as a home rule city.
okay,
So
in the state, it says that.
Yeah, I just read it to you. Yes, I just read it to you. Yes. It also in your home rule charter does say you guys have the authority through the health department to enact emergency rules such as this. We have a problem. We can't wait a year to fix it. I mean, I am on your side with this. I just want to find a way that we stop this from happening. And I'll go with you tomorrow and we will go to 100 places and 100% of the time they will not stay with me. They're not trained that way.
And
Logistically, think about this. They have one cashier, they have 9 registers. If Walmart is neighborhood Walmart on the south side, if they stay with me while I do my whole entire $200 order because I beeped the Bud Light first, what happens to everybody else in line? They are wiped clean. It doesn't make any sense logistically for them to stay with me through the whole transaction. They can't, they don't.
And my huge issue is just the amount of theft from minors through self-checkout. It is 100%, it is so serious. And you can't tell me that council has no sort of recourse or they can't figure something out to prevent these minors from getting alcohol. And this is the easiest way to steal alcohol. They're not going to go in the aisle and put alcohol in their bag. They don't have the balls for that. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But when they go through the self-checkout, it's so easy. They don't scan it. And it happens. It's 100% of the time they can get away with it. 100% of the time they can steal without anyone knowing. It's that easy. And that's why we're asking for single point of purchase. So maybe we combine self-checkout and single point of purchase. So maybe we have that one person that's stuck at self-checkout and all liquor sales have to go through that one self-checkout register because it's self-checkout.
to check out twice.
Why did I say? No, not twice. That's where they go. That's self.
Now, if you're getting a 6-pack
Mhm.
and you're
So your convenience is not my worry. I'm worried about the kids dying in car wrecks. That's what I'm worried.
Mr. Gosick, I think the idea is we're not going to ban self-checkout, just to regulate it a little bit more. Whereas just one self-checkout register has that person that's going to be essentially doing all of the IDs all the time. So anyone that has alcohol as part of their purchase can go to that specific self-checkout register, similar to when buying nicotine products or when buying a gun.
So you want one checkout for all alcohol.
Or self-checkout.
In self-checkout. So we're not banning self-checkout. We're just,
We're going to require King Soopers to change their checkout procedures?
Yes,
Where does the city of Pueblo get that authority?
city charter.
Since liquor sales is a matter of state concern.
Well, they can just run it to the tobacco. point
The
of
state
sale.
gives us authority over
So they wouldn't
tobacco.
be, they could just, I realize
If
that,
you
but
can
they could-
persuade the legislature to give us authority over how alcohol is sold in grocery stores, I'd be happy to write a similar ordinance. Be
Well,
delighted.
because they don't say how you have to use the self-checkout, that does give you the authority to place a person at the self-checkout to check IDs. We're not trying to get rid of anything. We're trying to make sure that when you go through the self-checkout, that somebody is standing with you until the end of the transaction and you're not messing up somebody else's self-checkout, because that's not fair either.
Well, if that's a violation of state law, if you have evidence, bring it to us.
That's the really easy answer. That doesn't help us. That doesn't help our kids from buying at prom in 2 weeks.
yeah.
It doesn't sell hard liquor, right?
We do, and you know, that's
And
our job. So all of our staff gets trained.
And so you're talking to me about kids?
Yes.
Mr. Kagosick,
I've been in business for 12 years. I'm a tip certified trainer. I have taken over 50 IDs this year. I no longer take the New Mexico ID because on IDgods.com you can buy 2 for $50. It's insane. They scan. I bought a $3,000 scanner, and it's garbage because IDgods.com will sell you 2, and they scan and they work. So I no longer take them. So I will argue with you all day long that my business is responsible. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Could we make a mistake? Absolutely. But the chances of us making a mistake are far less than a grocery store. I'm simply asking that we make self-checkout harder, or just have another set of eyes on it when it involves alcohol. It doesn't violate anybody's, they can still go through self-checkout. They can still, so we're not taking away the self-checkout, right? We're making sure that the people that want to buy alcohol, they are doing it the way the state wants it to be without violating the other rights of the people in the store. The state wants you to stand with me for the entire transaction, and that doesn't happen. And it's not fair to the other people who are in line.
Councilor Warner, I think, has a question or.
Yeah, why don't we just eliminate it in self-checkout? So anybody buying liquor has to go to the regular checkout. There's an express line as well.
So I would love that, but the state law specifically says allows for.
Well, like you said, I mean, we're a home rule city, so if it's more strenuous, I mean, you can just go right back to the marijuana law. It's legal to sell recreational marijuana, but Colorado Springs voted it down. So, I mean, we can definitely make it more strict. We can do anything as long as it's more strict than the state law. That's a fact. So maybe you need an attorney.
I'm just hoping at a work session
An attorney.
that we could come together and do something
I
instead of
don't
being
think that's
combative.
going to happen with our
I think-
legal department. So, well, maybe I would just suggest that. I want to thank you for coming forward, Ms. Sebo, and we don't think you're crazy. We think of solutions all the time to try to save children. We're the second in the US for adolescent suicide. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward. And, we're under the restrictions of our law department, but doesn't mean we won't stop. In fact, if you brought ordinances from other cities, even if they are in other states, you can always give us to them as an example, and we can put them in front of Mr. Kagosick, and maybe there's something he can find there. Okay. I appreciate it.
Councilor Tinsdale.
Yeah, let me preface my comments by saying if there's a devil on this earth, it's in that bottle you sell. I know more people that have been harmed by liquor than any other drug, any other thing. Your argument that kids are going to get it, they're getting it already. And it's the adults that are going into your store and buying it for the kids. So they're getting it. You're not going to save any more kids by doing what you want. If you want to do away with self-checkout, that's probably okay. In my perfect world, I would pass an ordinance that if I could take a picture into your establishment and say, do not sell to this person because they're an alcoholic, I would love to see that.
That law exists and we actually, we do it.
Well, actually, you can sell 10 bottles of liquor to a person, whereas a bartender cannot oversell.
That's
liquor.
different, you're right.
You know, so somebody could come in and buy 10 bottles of liquor and it's okay.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, it's preferable because then you wouldn't have to sell 9 more in a single, what do you call it? But I'd like to see that, you know, that we don't have that ordinance. I'd like to see an ordinance whereby, hey, here's a picture of my cousin. An ordinance says if I bring it in, you can't sell to them or you have to refuse service to them. You don't, liquor stores don't refuse.
On the
service
liquor
anymore.
store side of thing, that law does exist.
It's public drunkard law and we do, and we have dealt with it before.
Yeah,
And it should be.
we've had family members come, and so we
100% of the time I haven't seen it. Because
at our
in there
store,
drinking, people are in there buying liquor every day and I see them on the streets and on street corners and every place else. So I would love to do away with self-service, what do you call it? And self-service checkout. Yeah, because I think they're ridiculous. You know, all they're doing is taking away employment opportunities for a lot of people. But,
Agreed.
well, I can see it, but then again, if it isn't, if we cannot go against state law, change state law.
Sir, Counselor Graham.
Mr. Kagosic says there absolutely no option to where we can make it more strenuous at a self-checkout and still have the self-checkout?
The sale of alcoholic beverages, the sale of marijuana.
No, not at self-checkout, sir, just alcohol.
I'm just, the point I'm trying to make is these are matters of state law.
Yeah, but
You can't have one rule in Pueblo that's different from the state law.
if we keep the state law and just make it more strenuous, why can't we do that?
How would you make it more strenuous?
By having only one self-checkout area be able to take alcoholic beverages.
That violates state law.
How? Because
The
we're
state
not,
law says
we're not limiting self-checkout.
you can check out at any.
It says any.
It doesn't say any. It just says subject.
In the wording, does it say any?
No, I'll show it to you.
It says that you can self-check out
Okay,
at King Soopers.
sure. But can we say the city of Pueblo requires King Soopers to only have one self-checkout area to serve alcoholic beverages?
No,
Why?
because it violates state law.
It's not violating state law because we're still letting
State law.
we can be more strenuous in state law.
Who says that?
You say it all the time.
No, I don't.
You sure do.
Well, you've asked me, you said I should be fired, so.
Commissioner Kagosic, I'm starting to think that again. Mayor, you have any, you're an attorney. Can you enlighten
How would
us?
it help if there was only one single checkout? How would that help?
So I think as soon as we start putting up signs and making awareness that we are looking at self-checkout, these kids are gonna be like, oh, darn it, we need to find a different way. We need to do something different. I think that it will cut down because now they're gonna think, oh, we have to go to this one self-checkout and Brian here is gonna be staring at me the entire time. Right now, they walk over, we do this. Hi, thank you. And they go on to the next sale. They didn't look in my bag. They didn't do anything. And
They
so,
didn't check your ID?
no, well, I look over.
Of course, I had to punch in the code.
so the people that are, the minors, the 12-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, the 17-year-olds that are stealing it, they feel more comfortable and they have learned that's where they
But
get
if
help.
they're stealing it, Brian, they're certainly not gonna go to the self-checkout to steal it.
That's what they're doing now.
That's how they do
That's
it.
what they're doing now.
That's
Well,
exactly.
they're not gonna go to the single point. They'll go to some checkout. They're not gonna admit that they have alcohol, are they?
Correct. No. So this is a deterrent. We're hoping to deter them from actually utilizing that self-checkout lane to steal.
So you're 16 years old, right? And you go in and you take these two monsters and you go to self-checkout. Nobody's really watching you. You're in, you're out. If somebody,
I thought you couldn't get it unless there was a code.
if somebody,
But if you take this.
You scan it, you scan it, and it requires a code from the.
What the minors are doing, this is not right. So this one is not.
it's hard when you're not around.
They're scanning that one twice.
Yes.
When I go by ibuprofen or Walmart, I understand it in the container and I have to do the whole thing.
Order.
Sorry.
This has gotten way out of hand. And I'm getting frustrated, honestly, because we're not listening to each other. And instead we're digging our heels in about things that are not pertaining to this situation, regardless of what side you're on. Now, moving forward, I would like to know specifically what we have the legal abilities to do moving forward. And Dan, I know that you have said the law is the law, but because this is newly brought to you, I would ask that your office just be refreshed.
I will give you a legal memo.
But as it specifically pertains to checkout and one point of sale.
One point of sale for alcohol
At a self-checkout.
at the so every grocery store, Family Dollar is going to have a single point of sale for alcohol
Yes, sir.
in the city of Pueblo.
Just like guns and tobacco.
Self-checkout.
Yeah, we're authorized to do that by state law. So, but I'll give you a memo.
Great.
And then it'll be critiqued, I'm sure, and that's fine.
Vince.
Yeah, I just want to, if Ms. Sebo, if you could get me proof that these stores are just punching in the code and walking away. I believe if we hit them with one violation, all the stores are going to revamp their policies and eliminate a lot of the problem that they're going to have.
I would love that.
Somebody has to stay there because once our violations come down, it's financial and days shut down, and it's a big hit, usually on the first time.
And Mayor, to your question, or I can't even remember who asked at this point, but I will say, working in youth substance use, the more barriers that you have up for youth access, like the one point of sale at self-checkout, the more barriers there are, the less likely they are to do it, or the less likely they are to have access.
But the point I was, I guess, trying to figure out is a youth who's trying to get alcohol surreptitiously is not going to go to that alcohol line. He's going to do the same thing he's doing now. Get the cans that look similar and hit one of them twice and not hit the one that has alcohol in it. And this won't change that at all.
I think that just a supervision of that one alcohol trained person, just kind of monitoring the area will work.
With signage.
Right now, they're
Honestly,
saying now.
business practices are things we could argue about. Is this a good
Right.
idea to have self-checkout and, have everybody, you see those things that, don't blame me if I got it wrong. I wasn't trained to be a checker.
Right,
So,
right.
So it sounds, sorry, Mr. Flores, go.
I just wanted to say, there must be a disease going around in our community and people want us to supersede federal and state law. What you told me, Mr. Gosick, I understand completely. You were not nebulous. It was not that I didn't understand. I know clearly that we don't have this authority. And, but go ahead and do your memo and. I will write any ordinances directed by a member of council. I can tell you it's illegal. And then we will get sued and that's fine. That's no problem. I don't mind King Super suing us. Not a problem. But we can't tell King Supers how to sell alcohol under state law. Completely understand.
Counselor Graham.
So you will write the ordinance for us? Is that what I'm gathering?
What you heard me say is he'll
I'm really confused.
and he'll do some research and give an opinion about where we're at.
Right. And then when it's time to hire an attorney to take on Kroger or Albertsons or Safeway or Family Dollar or one.
So it's about the money? So is this about the money?
Mr. Gagosa, your legal opinion on what we can and can't do, and that's
Yeah,
it.
I think the direction to staff is, can we please have a memo, something from the attorney's office as what Pueblo City Council can do as it pertains to putting more regulations in place for the self-checkout, for only having one self-checkout as for the point of sale, specifically for alcohol.
Okay. And I will ask Trevor Gloss to do the research and do the memo.
Okay. I just thank you guys so much for just hearing us out. I know alcohol stuff is always very contentious. We are all on the same team. I will do whatever I can to help you guys out. I am not sitting here to tell you guys anything disrespectfully. I just really am concerned about a problem. So I don't want to be at odds with you guys at all. I want to figure out if there's something we can do, how can we help you do it? That's all. So thank you for your time.
All right, yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Depending on that memo from Mr. Kagosic and Mr. Gloss, I might have you both come back for a future work session to nail some more things down. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thanks.
I need a drink now, so I'm glad that you guys brought alcohol because I'm gonna need a drink.
Yeah. Have your ID ready. No, you self-checkout.
Okay. You guys, that was the first time I had to use a gavel as work session chair. And I went really into it. I've only used it one time as work session chair. I'm sure I'm possible. The power. Oh, great. So the next agenda item is golf course enterprise update. So can I have Mr. Rictone and Mr. Lewis to the podium, please? And then it looks like there's three presenters. Whoever's name I did not call, can you please state for the record?
Yeah.
Oh, Randy Brager. Oh my gosh. Obviously. Sorry.
I believe we submitted a slideshow to use. All right, I don't know if I have the energy to go through this after this.
You have a couple golfers up here, so we're ready.
Well, we're here. Advisory Committee, I'm Mike Ricatone. We have some of our also chairs in the audience here. Jerry Thomas, Joe Latino, Karen Conway, and Tony Montoya. Obviously, hopefully you guys know Dave Lewis from Randy Brager. We are here for the Golf Enterprise. And it's been a while since we've been here for the Golf Enterprise. Before we go on to the, do I hit this? I'm sorry, can I ask? We go on, it's just a brief theme of what the Golf Enterprise. The Golf Enterprise is a self-sustaining entity through the city. We're not on your general fund. All the money raised through our two golf courses go back into the golf course and pays for golf itself. So just kind of want to let you know we're a little different entity than normal. So we look at marketing. Target groups attract golfers from neighborhoods, community along the Front Range. We strive to get junior golfers because that's the future of the golfing in the area. We have corporate sponsors. I'm sorry, it's slide got. We also do television, mostly through the winter months. We found that the last 3 years it's been very attractive to advertise outside our own communities here about the great weather we have. I just saw a picture of the triangle where no snow was, and Pueblo was right dab in the middle of it. So we take advantage of that, trying to attract our northern partners down here to help facilitate more golf play with the great weather we have. We do joint ventures, we do adding.
Matter of fact, I believe we have, I'm not sure how to do this. This is one of our advertisers. Hey, Greg, what's going on? Thanks, still, yeah? Just about finish up the front line. Where'd you leave, Steve? I don't know, around. Yeah, sure. Get in here. Catch you on the back line. Enjoy your rings.
Spring-like conditions in Elmwood and walking State Golf Courses Gear Club will come over for the first time and receive free months. Call today and schedule your tee time to get 40% off course fees on select days.
So that's actually how it looks out there at the golf course right now, the green. They flock the trees to make it look like that too. But another thing that we really do, our golf pros do well is to promote.
Looking a little cold and damp in the springs, but it's always a great day for golf in Pueblo. Wouldn't you rather spend your day like this? Instead of this, enjoy year-round golf in spring-like conditions at Elmwood and Walking Stick golf courses in Pueblo. Before hitting the links, stop by the pro shop. At the turn or after your round, grab a delicious meal or snack at one of their restaurants. Book your tea time at Walking Stick or Elmwood Golf Course today.
So those are the two advertising. If you're like me up early on Channel 5, you get to see these and laugh at them. Junior golf, again, is very important to us because that's the future of our golfers coming up. And then we all believe it's a great opportunity and a way to exercise. The summer lessons, there's 443 participants. Junior rounds, about 3,400. We're still working on the first tee program. We were hoping to have it back in 2022, but a little bug came up. So it kind of hampered us, but I assure you that both our golf pros are looking at bringing that back as a supplement to what they run already. There's a backstory on that, but that's beside the point. We don't have time. Rounds. It's amazing the amount of rounds that are here. Over 90,000 total between the two courses. Over basically 300 days of play. So you can imagine how many rounds these guys participate. Obviously, Elmwood has another 9 holes, so they have almost 61,000, where Walking Stick had about 29,500. Improvements that we did in the last few years. One of the main improvements was a safety concern by Walking Stick, and they got together and they have now LED lightings to help with the safety at night, especially during the winter time. Walking Stick Restaurant, AG Langone retired, and we changed the name to just the Stick, but it still serves the community, not only the golfers, but also people going there for lunch and dinners. Elmwood, we're fortunate to put new cart paths. That's kind of one of our continuations that we'd like to do at Elmwood because it gets a lot of play. And the more paths we have there, the better condition it would be in. So we did 1, 3, 4, and 9. And actually the tee area coming in, it really came out nice. The clubhouse restaurant in Elmwood was remodeled in 21 and menus changed in 23. They're still working on the menus. Randy just informed me, invited me to lunch, that they're adding more Mexican food to their menus. So that's a good thing too. Walking Stick, future upgrades. It's been around a while. It just seems like it was yesterday that it was open, but it's been around a while. And as everything, it needs some love. One of the first things that we'd like to do out there is the restroom facility upgrades. And that would allow them to leave that open all year round, but it needs to be upgraded to new electrical too in order to do that. The parking lot entrance and landscaping to just improve the aesthetics of that course. The pond clean out is a big concern because usually in August, it kind of turns over and creates an odor problem. But we're working on that and working on ways to mitigate that problem. One of the big things coming up right now is the possibility of Walking Sticks, as you can see up there, as a Thunderwolf golf training. That's through CSUP. We've been fortunate around boys and girls programs for the last 5-10 years have been fantastic through the college. This would add to their able to continue to attract good golfers and have a course that they could have meetings and stuff there on the course. They're working on putting up this facility, working with the city to what they need. Approximately right now, it's $1 million in cost. So that'll be continue. Hopefully next time I come in front of you, we've got that $1 million raised. Alma Golf Course, the Bessemer Ditch has always been a problem because it's not lined just like it should. Or if it was lined, it's been a while again and it needs a little love. So Bessemer Ditch is due drainage replacement, approximately $80,000. Obviously, how we irrigate Elmwood, which we're fortunate to do, is just pay for the pumping and electrical costs. Well, that again, as over time needs upgrading. Cog path replacement, like I said before, this continuation of working on the carts to get that more golf carts on the course too, because in the wintertime, there's a lot of damage to them due to play. Executive course restroom construction, again, it just needs more love, and it's been a while since that. I think I was a junior golfer, but when they first put that in, and unfortunately, I'm not young anymore. Here's one of the main things that we're looking at here of future costs for the enterprise. So the golf course, maintenance equipment, established mowers, utility vehicles. The estimated cost now is almost $5 million. The last lease purchase was a third of that. So that's what we're looking at. The golf carts. Everyone likes to have a new golf course. Well, we try to do that every 3 years. There's 142 new golf carts that are needed, 2 driving range pickers and 2 beverage carts to serve the public. The estimated cost is $600,000. The last time we purchased that was $460,000. So you can see some of the hurdles that we're looking at. The golf rates. We haven't had a golf increase, and I'll expand on that in a minute. But obviously, over the last few years, the major cost increases are fuel, labor, which just went up again at the first of the year for the state minimum wage, equipment maintenance, equipment leases, building maintenance, and really getting hit by fertilizer and seed. And if you look at it, that's actually what we do is like agriculture. We grow grass for people can play on it. Golf course enterprise expenses have increased approximately 18% over the last 5 years. Resolution 1384-6 on January 1st, 2018 was the last time council approved a rate increase of these courses. Card fees and driving range fees increased in 2018 through 2020 incrementally over the 3 years to make it easier on the people who play golf in Pueblo. The costs of the enterprise over the past 2 years have successfully achieved the project revenue even through COVID, which is probably great. You haven't seen us in 2 years because we haven't been able to come and ask for money through ARP or wherever funds were available. So we've done a really good job of growing and continue to grow the golf experience in Pueblo even through certain circumstances. Additional revenues allowed the enterprise to begin addressing capital improvement needs. In late 2022, the golf managers' golf rate increased again, in which it was approved, which extended over the 3-year period, effective March 1st. That's what we're asking for, basically, what I hear. We haven't had an increase for the last 3 years. 2020 was the last time. And I wish I could go back to paying for college, buying gas insurance to 2020 rates. But we have enhanced our customers' experience even through this. So if you had a chance to look at it, and I'll probably turn over to Dave or Randy, whichever one's any questions on the increase. What we're here tonight is we have to get your permission in order to increase the rates. Both the golf pros and the committee and the city has discussed this to help continue to improve the golf course at a reasonable rate without impacting the beloved golfers here that we serve. So I don't know if you have a chance to look at it, but these are some of the projections that we're looking at for the next 3 years. Again, it's a 3-year increment. It's not all at once hitting that. And what we found out through our research is Florida is very affordable golf rate. to come down and golf. And that's another reason why we attract people from around the area to come and golf there, because it's reasonable and we've kept it reasonable. But unfortunately, right now we're looking at impact of seed, fertilizer, equipment costs that have tripled without looking at moving forward with the rate increases might be detrimental to the play or increase the maintenance cost. So either you get new equipment or lease new equipment, or you buy the parts and stuff. The only problem with the parts and maintenance, we have guys that are willing to do that, is the availability of those parts. And when it happens, it never happens at the most opportune time, like the end of the season, right before Christmas, right? So anyway, I'll turn it over to Dave to discuss more of the rates or have questions from you guys.
I just entertain questions. If you've been able to look at the rates that Randy and I have put together, on my side, it's a little bit, we're kind of going a little bit higher. Walking Stick's a little different golf course. I mean, it's a different animal. We attract a lot of people down from Denver and Springs. When the snow starts flying, my phone starts ringing and it's awesome. So we want to get to the prices that they're doing up north. Colorado Springs is probably an average of about $65 to $75 a round at their public golf courses, including cart. Denver is probably $75 to $100. And I have people, I've told you this before, I have people come up the counter, I charge them $50 and they go, I need a cartridge with that. And I'm like, no, that's included. And so you're leaving money on the table there. But I've done kind of a, what would you call it? Quasi checking people for, if we were to raise rates, out of towners, they would pay it. I mean, they're just saying that it's worth more. They tell me it's worth more. And so in order to get ourselves going and get some capital things done and some, like Mike was saying, some love for the golf courses, we feel like we need to raise these rates a little bit just to keep up. Nice thing is we're not here asking you for money, trying to just make more.
Yeah.
As Dave iterated, the Walking Stick is more of a destination golf course, so he obviously gets a lot more out of town play than Elmwood. So Elmwood, where I have a lot of senior golfers, so my fee increases, I try to be a little bit more sincere and think about my people who are on fixed incomes and so forth. But like you said, in order to keep up the infrastructure, keep up with the cost of doing business, we do have to increase fees somewhat.
Yeah, just to end here, we're not asking for the city to ask for money to go to the courses. We're asking permission from the city to raise fees in order to pay and keep the playing at a quality that is acceptable to not only the board, but to the mayor's office and everybody. So that's where we're here at the pleasure of your decision here tonight, or how to move forward. And if you have any additional questions in the meantime, Mike Saxon and Steve Myers are a great help too, and I'm sure you work with them. They can get the questions answered through Dave or Randy as quickly as possible.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Riccatello, Mr. Lewis, and Mr. Breaker. Councilor Flores, I think, already has a couple questions.
Yeah, I have one question, a quick question. I like the way you did this incrementally over the 3 years. I think that's a great approach. The question is, can you charge people from outside of Pueblo County a higher fee than you can?
Can we, or
are you doing that currently?
well, I'm proposing that.
Okay.
Do you have? I don't have a non-resident fee.
Okay. I don't have a non-resident fee, but actually years ago, we used to have a non-resident fee. But at my golf course, I attract a lot of seniors from out of town to come and play. As a matter of fact, when we do come, a lot of them walk because our golf course is so golfer friendly and easy to walk. But Dave, again, his is a different animal versus Elmwood. So me charging a non-resident fee, I think that would discourage. I mean, I do get plenty of out of town play. Don't get me wrong, especially this time of year. I don't want to discourage them from not coming down and playing. It sounds to me like there's quite a leeway between our fee, $50, and in Denver, that there could be someplace in the middle there. That it would still, we're still a bargain.
Councilman Thorne, let me answer that and I'll turn it over to Dave. Again, that's kind of why if you look and get into the nuances of what they're proposing, again, we're considering Dave's course more as a destination, more out of towners and stuff like that. And Randy's more of the home course. And we understand that impact because my dad was a teacher and Dave's a teacher and they retired and they like to golf. The impact to them, they have the choice to go to Randy, which is a little bit more affordable. So we're not discouraging them, but we're also keeping that. And in the last few years, I always reminded of Dave, and I'll let him speak too, is he never really wanted to make someone a liar when they come up to the course or the people like that. Are you a resident? You know, and then you have to check. But I'll let him speak on what he's doing on this course.
And I lost my train of thought. Let's see. So what I would really like to, I was actually the one that knocked out, oh, is it on now? I was actually the one that suggested taking away that fee, mainly for what Mike said. Now looking at it, I think it's time to put it back in with the way that the market's going and how big golf is and inability of people to get on their own golf courses up in Denver and Springs. And even on the Western Slope, we've had some people come over from there. So I think it's time to put that back in. The way that I would like to word it possibly, I just thought about this today, is not necessarily a non-resident fee, but a resident discount. So that we have this green fee, but you're going to have a resident discount. That makes, if I ask somebody, are you resident Pueblo, and you get that, they're going to lie.
But on the surface, everybody's paying
the same, but now a resident's going to get a discount.
Okay.
Did that answer Mr. Flores?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Did you have something, Councilor Atencio?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being the least expensive course in Colorado. It's affordable for everyone. Anyone who wants to come down from Denver or whatever comes down, and the people here. I know I could play with all the seniors out there at Elmwood, but raising the fees, I don't know that that's a real good idea because we have a heck of a product and it's affordable and people love to come here. When I go along to play at Elmwood, I'm playing with somebody from out of town. A lot of times. So people do love to come down here to play. And I see the increases as not a problem.
Actually, Pueblo, we put out a pretty good product as far as how many rounds that we take in. And there's a lot of wear and tear on the golf course. But the golf course are in pretty darn good condition despite that.
Yeah, I'm amazed every spring and summer how they come back from winter. Because wintertime is when they get beat up because you get practically as many rounds in the winter as you do in the summer.
Councilor Maestri?
I think the raise in fees is very reasonable. I mean, it's a very expensive sport. It's not a cheap sport. So we should be saving them dollars on the fees. And I've seen the clubs and the shoes and the outfits and all of that. I don't know that they're getting all kinds of discounts in those areas. So I think these are way more than reasonable. And I'd be willing to raise the fees double of what you're asking.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, let's be realistic. We shouldn't wait until we have a deterioration of the product. We need to maintain the product. And if it takes more money than this, I mean, this is, yeah. I know what a country club membership costs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Councilor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for putting these numbers together. And I think that these increases are very fair. I'm in support of this raise because I think at most there's like $9, but that's 3 years down the line from non-residential weekend players for 18 holes. So that's totally understandable. But do you think that this is going to have any impact on the junior golf, like some of the scholarships that are needed and things like that?
Well, our junior fees are extremely reasonable. Matter of fact, people from, when we have junior events down here. Yeah. I got it, okay. When we have junior events, and the people that come down from the north are flabbergasted by the price for junior golf. So, I mean, we keep our prices down to try to promote junior golf as much as we possibly can. And I mean, we have a fairly adequate participation. We can always have more. Of course, this day and age, you know, technology is kind of taken over kids' lives, but it's there. But we are starting up. We have a Pikes Peak Junior Golf League that's been going on for years. Dave and I played it when we were young. We are going to start up a junior league for Pueblo County Junior Golf this coming year, and we're getting with the local courses to try to, you know, do 4 or 5 little events for them at a very low cost, and do it at the time where the golf courses aren't real busy. But it's just another way, because, you know, some of our kids can't get out of town as much as they'd like to, or just don't have the resources or the transportation to do so. So we're going to start trying to do something here locally as far as junior golf leagues. And we're going to try to put together a little thing, try to raise the money, do a junior golf fundraiser to try to give some scholarship money for kids when they finish. Of course, they have to be a high school golf participant, but they don't have to play college golf, but at least offer something to them. Yeah.
So if I may add to that, I've been at the golf courses when they've had these things, and I've had them ask the cashier, no, I wanted a large bucket. And they go, that is a price for a large bucket. It is same with the green fees. It's amazing that we've really kept those. And if you look over the things that we encourage that here, it makes it affordable for the kids to learn that. And I've known, talking with Dave and Randy, in the future, we're also looking at maybe working with US kids where because they can buy the clubs and turn them in. How do we get sets? Maybe we can get them donated for these kids to use and even take with them. So we're looking at that, Councilman, and how to improve because that's our future. I mean, if you don't grow your young golfers, you're not going to have old golfers like me.
Well, yeah, exactly. And getting some of those young folks something to do is always preferable than, you know, idle hands. So thanks for putting this together. And I think these fees are reasonable.
Does the city Parks and Rec have a youth golf program? Oh, they run it. Okay. What do you guys do with the old golf carts? The old golf carts that you rotate out?
We actually trade those in. And then we usually do a $1 buyout lease, so that at the end we buy them for $1, but then they give us anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 towards the other lease, towards the next lease. So did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
No, just curious. And then for the great commercials that were played earlier, do you all work with the chambers to help with advertising and promotion?
Yes. Yeah, we do. Actually, Kara Siegel approached. I think she did. Dave, she's put something together for the Pueblo Chamber as far as things to do in Pueblo, and she approached Dave and I both as far as golf is concerned. Yeah,
great. I'm glad that connection was made. Councilor Ferris has another.
Yeah, just went on. The council and the city have put together what's called an economic dashboard. And I keep thinking, when we're attracting new businesses into Pueblo, they're always looking for things that they can do as owners, but also their employees. And the fact that we have all these days in the winter, I'm thinking maybe that's one of the dashboards we should have too, about how many days we have, even through the winter months. And I don't know if you track it by month. If that could be done, and that dashboard would show that a business that moves into Pueblo is another amenity that we have in Pueblo that other cities don't. The other thing on the partnership with CSU Pueblo and their golf program there. Did I see that right? Is the foundation going to fund the whole million?
Well,
Or is there going to be?
that's still in the works as to
Okay.
how, I've been to a few of the meetings. It's actually Josh Koski, who actually works for me. He's the golf coach up there. He's kind of spearheading along with, I think, Ken West and a couple other people. But they're kind of in negotiations as to how all that's going to work.
And is there going to be some additional, like a match where the foundation will?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Mayor? I'm sorry. I believe.
You're getting called, Mayor.
My question, Mayor, was with the $1 million cost to the CSU Pueblo program, the foundation is going to put in a significant amount of money into that. Is it going to be a match that's going to be needed with that or no?
Talking about the facility?
Yeah.
No money in the city is anticipated, I think, based on the conversations. That's what I've heard too. I've had with them. We've had some discussions about what's the best location and that kind of thing in terms of parking being a concern, but everybody thinks this is a great idea for that too. It is a great idea. I believe somehow it's going to be funded by the university and donors.
And is that only at Walking Stick?
Yeah, it's their home.
Makes sense. It's right there.
Yeah.
Great. Great report. Thank you.
Other questions,
The
everybody?
councilman, I'm sure if the council sees willing to give them more money to enhance the fee, they would not turn it down.
Friends, thank you so much for that presentation. Last on our agenda then is talking about medians. So can I have Mr. Hayes and Chief Noller?
Sitting here.
I guess also, there didn't need to, Mayor, there didn't need to be staff direction on the fees, right? He's not listening. Okay. Is that gonna be done on a resolution and we're just gonna adopt the change in fees?
Yeah, yes.
Great. Chief, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I think I've got a PowerPoint they're trying to pull up for me now. Which you guys probably got in your handout. The first 3 or 4 slides is just the actual language from the usage of median ordinance. I'm not going to read that to you. I provided it to you so that you could refer to it if you needed to. But albeit to say,
We don't have a handout. Is it just the slides?
oh, I guess I would have, I guess I
Okay.
thought you would have.
Okay.
Yeah, do you guys have access to it?
2 weeks ago.
Okay. To just long story short, it does restrict which medians can have these signs posted on them. And in speaking with Andrew Hayes a little bit ago, I believe all the signs are posted where we can post them as of today, except maybe one. The delay on the signs is not really the city's issue. Some of these medians are city-owned, I don't know what the proper term is, but areas, so to speak, and some of them are owned by CDOT. The delay on getting some of these signs put up has been that CDOT was slow on making the approvals. The next slide I'll go to shows where these installations are on there's 12 north side locations. There's one on Highway 50 West, at Highway 50 West in Club Manor, Highway 50 West in Elizabeth, one on Club Manor for southbound Club Manor at Highway 50 West, which is where the green dot is on this slide. Elizabeth Street covers southbound Elizabeth at Highway 50 and northbound Elizabeth at Highway 50. And I believe that sign has been placed now. Highway 47 or Cesar Chavez, westbound Highway 47 at I-25. And eastbound Highway 47 at Dillon are the locations for Cesar Chavez. Dillon Drive, northbound Dillon Drive at Highway 47, I believe has been installed now. And the southbound Dillon at Highway 47 may be the one that hasn't been installed just yet. 29th Street, westbound 29th at I-25 frontage road.
Eastbound 29th at Hart Road, not installed. It is installed now, I'm sorry. Westbound 29th Street at Hart Road, it is installed now. This power plant was made before those installations happened. There's 3 locations on the south side. One of them you can't see because of the whatever that is with the video thing on it. But there's Northern Avenue, eastbound Northern Avenue at Prairie, northeastbound Northern Avenue at Hollywood, and southwestbound Northern Avenue at Vinewood. So these numbers are accurate as of today. We've written 34 citations at those locations since September. The majority of them are at the north side ones. The south side area has not been enforced as rigorously as the north side, but the majority of our complaints come from that north side area, Dillon, Highway 50, Cesar Chavez, and North Elizabeth area. The Club Manor area, we don't get as many complaints on it as we do the ones closer to Elizabeth and in the I-25 corridor. So the DICE team is the unit that primarily is dealing with the homeless issues. When I say that, I'm not talking about just the fact that they're homeless, but the violations that they do, loitering, trespass, panhandling, or improper use of the medians. And to date, this is since April of 22, these are the stats of the DICE team. They're pretty significant. They made over 1,600 contacts, issued somewhere over 200 citations, seized back about $20,000 in stolen merchandise and a bunch of other stuff that they're dealing with in addition to the other calls for service. And I'll leave that up there. I think it's important to note that obviously as we patrol the city, as we respond to different crime issues, use of medians is not our highest priority. I would just say that up front, although it is something that we are trying to address through the use of that ordinance. That's what word I'm trying to say. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. That's my report.
Thanks, Chief Noller. What questions are there from council? Councilor Vamp.
Chief, can you tell us what happens when your officer shows up and gives this citation?
It depends. Sometimes they go away. Sometimes the officer drives off and they're back in the median panhandling again.
And how many citations like this can they get?
As many as we can take the time to write.
It just goes on and really nothing comes.
Well, I think at some point, what would happen, obviously they would have to go to court. There is a fine. If they go to court and pay their fine, they would be eligible to receive as many of these citations as they wanted to. If they don't go to court, failure to appears would start to collect. We cannot take individuals to jail on municipal failure to appear warrants. We issue another PR bond, but after a certain number of those, a contempt of court warrant would be issued. In that case, we could take them to county jail, and then the judge could move forward on that.
So roughly how many times are we talking?
Before they go to jail?
Yeah.
A lot, probably 20.
20. So, the signs are kind of moot.
Yeah, I think that like everything, clearly the more you're able to enforce it, the more cooperation or the more it's obeyed. Our inability to make that a priority does lend that to be the case. I think the medians where those signs are posted, it is dangerous to be there asking for money or soliciting donations or, waving campaign signs or any of those things that would also be restricted at those medians. We're talking about locations where the speeds are in excess of 40, 45 miles an hour and the medians are very narrow. So there is a public service, public safety aspect to that ordinance. It's just a matter of how we in the city police have to decide what our priorities are and what we respond to and how much time we take to enforce certain ordinances. Like anything in life, there's a priority level, especially when you are in limited staffing.
Other questions, Councilor Farrell?
I noticed that you did arrest over 200 people because they had an outstanding warrant.
That's correct.
So those people were directed differently, weren't they?
They were. Now, those warrants, when those stats aren't just as it relates to this ordinance, they're everything that the DICE unit has done. So some of those warrants, no doubt, were municipal contempt of court warrants. Absolutely. The PR bonds issued, those would be municipal contacts where a person had a warrant we couldn't take to jail. So we reissued a PR bond, which what that essentially does is puts them on notice that they missed their court date, and it issues them another court date and a requirement to appear in court. And it's a way to allow people to rectify that situation without going to jail on lower level offenses such as use of medians. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
But not all of those 215 warrant arrests would be for a municipal offense. Some of them might be for, one of them I know for a fact was for murder. There would be, assaults, other crimes would also be included.
I noticed out of the 1,600 contacts you had, there was only one recovered stolen handgun, one. Is that just because it was stolen? The picture I get is that the homeless, if these are homeless people that are panhandling,
they're not armed,
that they're not carrying guns.
Yeah. What would be interesting and maybe a better way to break that down would be there are people that even if they're homeless are legally allowed to carry a gun, and as long as it's not stolen, there wouldn't be a whole lot we could do about it as long as it wasn't concealed on their person. There are people obviously that could potentially be homeless that would be prohibited because of felony convictions to possess a firearm, but maybe the gun's not stolen, so they would be charged with a PALPO instead of a stolen gun. So what I wouldn't take away is that only one homeless person had a gun, but I would say it's probably pretty low. Or we would probably see more stolen guns.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Other Councilor Tencio?
Yeah, I understand the priority situation, and I don't expect police officers to be on patrolling these corners every time they turn around. But I also see that if they're driving by, they see somebody in a median, drive by and stop and say, "Hey, get off the median, you're not supposed to be here." But the sign would be sufficient. And understanding that they just might come back up to the gun, but still, they're still making contact and they're making people aware, we're getting them off that median for any length of time at all. So I'm really satisfied with what you guys are doing. And I would say continue it because it's not that high of a priority, but by the same token, if you're driving by, let them know that they're not supposed to be there.
Absolutely. And just so you know, we do encourage them to do that. There's just no tracking mechanism for us to say how many times that happens. Because even when I drive by, I tell them, get beat feet. You can't be here. Look at the sign. I don't know how to write a ticket anymore, so I just tell them to get lost. But the cops are doing that, and then the DICE guys, and when they have time, they are issuing a citation.
Yeah, sure. And that's enough of a contact for that type of activity.
Thank you.
Councilor Maestri?
Have you heard the 4 officers?
The CSOs?
The CSOs.
Oh, we have one of them is out on leave right now, but we do have the 4.
Are they more suited to monitor this than?
They can't issue citations.
Oh,
they're prohibited. A post-certified officer has to issue a citation. So that's the one area they can't. I mean, certainly they could tell them to beat feet, but there's nothing further they could do beyond that. They can't issue a citation unless they're a sworn post-certified officer.
Yeah, but they could be present. If there's a problem with an officer, right?
Potentially, yes. But again, there would be no evidence of that having taken place because there would be no citation or clearance of the individual. It would be just asking them to tell them to leave. Just to give some perspective on what the CSOs have done, they started working on their own, I believe, in late September. In between September and the end of December, they took over 1,800 calls for service and wrote over 830 reports.
So we're utilizing that quite a bit. And to give you some perspective of what that allows our patrol officers is prior to the establishment of the CSO program, on average, every day, we had up to 40 calls holding. Right now, we're down to anywhere between high single digit numbers and up to 20 calls for service holding. So it's not done away with all of our calls holding, but their service in other areas has allowed us to be a lot more proactive and have less calls holding for service. So it's a balancing act that we're trying to do here with every aspect of our department personnel.
And would it be safe to say that maybe a couple of more of these officers would help alleviate that so that we can have active officers being able to take care of more?
Yes, and in fact, you approved 2 more for this year in this year's budget. The timing, the issue is timing for hiring and training. We're running multiple police academies, and that same staff is the same staff that teaches the CSOs in the academy. So we will start the hiring process, I think, for the CSOs in the middle of February, and they with the timing, they will start the academy, I think, sometime in August.
Do you have an academy that's starting soon for officers?
We do. We have an academy that starts, I think, hang on one second. I think it's the 3rd of February. Yeah, their first day with the city will be the 3rd of February. Their first day in the academy will be the 6th. And then we'll have 3 officers in that academy.
Just 3.
Just 3. We are in the middle of a hiring process right now. We had 137 applicants for a opening that closed on January 3rd. We had 103 of those moved on to taking the PAT and the written. 70 showed up. Of that 70, 56 moved on to interviews and 44 completed the interview successfully. So we're going to be starting the background, and that'll be for an academy that'll start in the beginning of June.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest, out of that 44, I don't know how many I'll get. It's a pretty intensive process. And frankly, when you look at national news, it's got to be. We've got to make sure we're hiring quality employees to work at the police department. But it's problematic, the rate of applicants that we're getting.
I know you had lowered the age limit, correct?
We can't, state law says it's 21.
21.
They did for DOC. You're right. DOC lowered the age limit, I think, to 18. But to be a post-certified sworn police officer, you have to be 21.
Okay.
Councilor Leonard.
Could possibly some of this employees from Health Solutions be addressing those folks in the meeting? Wouldn't that be?
Again, you don't have enforcement power. I think when you look at some of the things that we're talking about doing moving forward in the community, essentially, perhaps if the STAR team kind of a program, maybe that is a call that they could help handle. We would have to look at that and see. I don't think it's one that they're currently doing in Denver, but that doesn't mean that our program, if we were to get one, would have to be exactly like what they're doing in Denver. Certainly there's an opportunity for them to perhaps have conversations related to resources and other means to not have to be, it was very good English, but to not need to be out there on the medians panhandling. So perhaps that would be a resource to use.
Great. Seeing no other questions. Thanks, Chief. I'm going to conclude this work session at 8:07.
All right.
Okay.